So my next project isn't about clothes. It's a modified copy of this. This is a backpack I have had for quite a bit of time. As you can see, it's worn, and well, I want something else, a different color also. So I decided that instead of buying a new one, I'm going to make one. And I'm not going to go quite this complicated. So what I have here is, let's see, take these pieces. I'm going to use this fabric. It's I had just enough of it to get all the pieces for the outer. So there's two of these. It's a back and front, and then these pieces are for the top. Here is going to be a zipper here in between, and then the bottom is going to be this. I have already pieced these together, so just to remember which way these are going to go. So this goes here, and this white piece is, it's fabric on this side, which will go inside, and then this is some sort of rubber, latex, something like that. So the idea is that this is what is going to touch the ground when I put the bag down. So this, if this gets dirty, it can be wiped clean. Well, not quite clean, obviously, because it's white, but I'm not going to mind about that. So these are going to be the sides, and then this is going to be a front pocket. It's not quite the right shape now because it's pinned, so it goes there, and there's going to be a zipper here. This is very simplified version. I could make the pocket similar to this one, but I don't want to have too much trouble with the pocket, so it's going to be this. This version makes it easier to sew the zipper. And then I have here two pieces. These are going to the sides, so they'll replace these pockets. This material isn't good. There's already holes in there, so I'm using proper fabric for these side pockets. And there are darts at the bottom, and then these here in the upper edge, so it's not quite flat pocket. These are basically for, well, plastic bags and tissues and that sort of stuff. Nothing too big, just small stuff, or flat stuff. And let's see what else. Yeah, and it's going to have a lining. These are the lining pieces. These are the sides and top, and these are front and back. And there's also this piece. This is a padding for the back, and I think I might see if I have something else to use as padding, because this is not thick enough. The back should be sturdy, so if I can find something else to add there, I'll probably do that. But these are the pieces, and the first thing I need to do is sew the dots here and this upper edge. So this pocket is going here in between, so it'll be these 3 pieces together. So when it's turned like this, then the pocket goes into the edges here. I'm going to sew them to the edges as soon as I get these sewn, because they need to stay in place while I'm sewing these big pieces together. But as I said, I'm going to start with these pockets, and then I'm going to sew this. And the way I'm doing this is first from the right side, going like 4 millimeters from the edge, and then when I've sewn that, then I'll turn it the wrong side out and sew the edge here 6 millimeters from the edge. So I found this felt. I still had quite a big piece of it left, so that's gonna be part of the padding in this back piece, and this is the outside, so the back is going to be like this. There's the outside of felt, and then there's this lighter colored fabric which won't show through this fabric. So now it feels thick enough, more like the back in this old one. So I'm going to stitch these together, because as you can see, the seam allowances are here, so these pieces are a bit smaller than this piece of the lining. So I'm going to stitch here and here and here, and then the other way, so these will stay together nicely when I'm sewing the lining together. Now here is the bottom part and the lower parts of the sides. So this is going to be like this, and these are the pockets on the sides. So I have sewn these dots and these here, and then there's a strip of fabric here at the upper edge, because you can't leave a raw edge there. So I put this here, and then let's see what else. Oh, and I stitched here these, so to keep the seam allowances flat. And what happens next is that I'm going to make the upper part. It's these two with a zipper in the middle, and then once that's done, then it goes here, and it makes like let's see, I'm taking this, it'll go all around. It's gonna be a closed loop that goes all around here, and then once this seam has been sewn, then I'll sew these edges to here, to these edges, because it'll keep pockets in the correct place when I'm sewing the sides to these pieces. And the reason why it has to be done after sewing these in place is that, as you can see, there's a seam allowance here, so this is going to go a bit higher and it's going to hide the end of the zipper, so I can't sew this at this stage. So the next step is to make the zipper. I have here just enough for this, and then for this pocket, well, there's a bit, maybe 5-6 centimeters extra left, but that's not going to be any use. The zipper is now in place in the top part, and I actually managed to put both of these in place so accurately that there's no extra in one side. It's straight, and this can be opened in both directions, just the same way as it's in the original backpack. And now the thing with this is that even though I measured these pieces for 7.5 centimeters plus seam allowances 1 centimeter on both sides, this is 15 centimeters plus seam allowances, but as you can see, this is a bit wider. So what I need to do now is check the middle of this edge and then align this middle of the zipper to that middle and sew these right sides together, and then the same on the other side. So let's just put a couple of pins there so I can show what happens then. So then this will be, when you turn it the right side out, this is the entire bottom, top and sides of the backpack. You need to be really careful with the seam allowances in this case, because how long this loop is, it needs to be exactly the same as this, because if it's longer or shorter, it's gonna be hard to sew it to these edges. So that'll be the next possible problem. Okay, now I have stitched this, first sewn these seams here and then stitched, top stitched here, because it keeps the seam allowances flat, and that's always good. When you put a lining there, it's going to be the seams of this outer part and the seams of the lining, so stitching them flat makes things neater. And let's see, what's the next part? Well, the next part will be sewing these pocket edges to this edge. Oh yes, and of course this is wider on both sides, so I'll need to cut off the excess, about 0.5 centimeters on the entire length of this upper piece, on this side and this side, so it's the same. It's 15 centimeters plus seam allowances all around. So So this needs to be slightly narrower. That's the next part, and then this. And now this part is ready. The pockets are here, and this part is the same width as this lower part, so that can now wait. And this is the next part, the front pocket. Let's say this is the front, so it's going to be here, and I have sewn the seam once here on the outside, as you can see, and then finished the upper edge with zigzag. And now the next step is to turn this wrong side out. Like you can see, this is how it usually would look like on the outside. So in this case, it just sew here far enough from the edge that the raw edge stays in there. So when you sew it here and then turn it the right side out, it's going to look like it now looks on this side. So, and all this is just to have neat seam allowances here on the inside, because this pocket is not going to have a lining. The seam allowances are no problem in that bigger part of the backpack, because there's going to be a lining and that's going to cover all the seam allowances. So now this is all sewn here, and as you can see, instead of seam allowances you get this nice neat edge, and the seam allowances are there inside. And this is how it looks on the outside. And I have already sewn the zipper in place. First put it like this and sewn it here, and then turn like this and stitch on top, just to keep the seam allowances flat once again. And the next part will be to sew this pocket in place, and first needs to be this other edge of the zipper. Take the pattern and find the right place, the upper edge of this piece where it goes, and in this case it's halfway here, in like if I fold it in half, it's here, because this is the size of this pocket. So first this way, and sew here the zipper in place, and then turning it down and sewing the edges. Just close to the edge first, because at this point it just needs to stay in place, and the actual seam will be when this is sewn in place. It'll go this way. So I'm expecting this to be a bit tricky, getting all this stuff there in between, keeping the edges clear so nothing goes in between the seams that shouldn't be there. That might be tricky, but I'll see how that goes when I get there. First I'm going to sew this in place, and I'm also thinking of making a small pocket here on this upper half. Haven't really decided yet what kind, but it needs to be done after this one, because when the pockets need to be in place before I start sewing this in place. And of course I realized that I need the straps. This is a backpack. This needs straps, so I'll need to take a look at that old backpack and see what kind of straps I can make. The ability to adjust the length is the one that concerns me the most, because I'm not sure I have anything I can use. I haven't adjusted the length of the straps in the old backpack really for ages, so maybe I could make just fixed length straps. That would be the easiest solution. I'll need to think about that. So it's a couple of days later, and the front of the backpack is now ready. I have sewn these edges here together, and then I made a pocket here. This is just simple pocket with a flap, and then these snap-on buttons. I had to take this to school with me today to attach these, because I don't have the tools necessary, but the school has, and I can use the tools there when I need to do something like this. So the front is finished, so we can put it aside, and the next thing is making the straps. And this is the shape of the straps in the old backpack. This is up and this goes to the side. There's a narrow band which is attached here, and it continues and goes to the side seam. And I'm not quite sure about this. I just need to make these and see how it works. And plan at the moment is to take this felt that I used for in the back part of the lining to make the back sturdier. So I'll be putting this inside this part of the strap, and then, well, I'm not sure. I think I have some sort of band I can use for the rest of the strap, and I'm still considering whether it should be adjustable or not. I'm leaning towards fixed length, just because it's simpler, and I haven't needed the adjustments in the old ones, so fixed length is probably what it's going to be. So the plan with this, if there's enough, I think I should be able to get one strap from this piece and other one from this piece. Yeah, it looks like it. So I'll be cutting these pieces out of this felt, and then actually this without seam allowances, that kind of piece from this felt, and then pieces of this fabric with seam allowances. And a normal way to make this would be just take the fabric pieces right sides together, sew around and then turn it the right side out and push this in there, but I don't think that'll work. It's probably too difficult to get this long piece of felt inside this piece. So I was thinking that maybe if I sew this part and somewhere like here, and then turn it the right side out, put the felt in place, and then just do this rest of this seam when I'm stitching. I'm going to stitch around anyway, so I could just close this piece, this part, while I'm stitching. Okay, I decided what to do with the straps, and I'm well on my way making them. This is, let's take this. This is the old backpack. Let's take it so you can see it here in the picture. Yeah, so this is the same. I copied the shape from this old one because it's good. There's no point making a different strap if the old one works quite right. And then here, I don't know, can you see it? This is the other part of the strap, and I noticed this, how it's attached into this seam. So I'm doing the same with this. So I have sewn these. These are just triangle shaped pieces sewn here and then turned like this. And of course, if the band has right side and wrong side, you need to make these mirror images. So this is going to go here and this one goes here, and the end of the band goes in between there. It's gonna be, the seam goes over that, because it needs to be strongly attached to this seam. And this triangle part is actually, it makes the attachment stronger, because this upper part here, it stops this strap from going down. This will stay in its place properly with this support here, and then these will go here in the top seam, and the felt piece inside, it stops well before the edge, because the felt, the seam needs to go where there's only this fabric. The felt shouldn't go in between, because that's going to make this seam a bit difficult to handle. It should be strong enough when you go just here where the fabric is. And this is longer because I'm thinking of when this is turned like this, when the side is in place, then when I put the lining in place, I'm going to stitch it all through all the layers of fabric here, just to strengthen the attachment of the strap here. and hopefully it will work. And as you can see in these, I have sewn the seams up to this point, and putting the felt piece in here was, well, not easy, but it wasn't too difficult. But I don't think it would work. It would be really hard to do if you sew the seam all the way up here. So this is still open. I've just pinned it closed, and now I'm going to stitch all around here, and then I'm going to stitch these in place because it's easier. They'll stay in the correct places while sewing the side part into this back part. And there's still quite a lot of things to do with this, so I think this will be a two-part video. I'm going to stop this one here, and the second part will continue from when I've sewn these in place into this, and then I'll need to just think a little, because right now I'm not quite sure what the next part is after that, but I'll have to think about that a bit, and then that is where the second video will start.